I don't know, we're quite very few people today. I'm not sure what's the reason. Is there something special today? Is everyone busy with something else? Okay, Harsha is here. Let me remove the waiting room. Yeah. Okay, we'll just wait for 1 minute and then it's going to be 5. We'll start at 5 sharp. Okay. Let me share my screen till then. I'm not sure who's Zoom user. Could you rename yourself? If you can, it'll be nice to know your actual name. So you will have to let me know if my screen is visible to you all on the chat box, please. Okay, sorry, just a second. Okay, guys, Hare Krishna. Let us make a start quickly. We don't have much time to wait. So, yes, okay. Starting with my prayer. First of all, I request you all to bless me and pray that whatever I may speak today, may that be in accordance with what Lord Krishna had spoken to Arjuna, and may that be in accordance with the knowledge that has been passed down through the Guru Parampara. Please offer me your blessings and prayers. And I'll start with a small prayer. You all join me in this. Om Ajnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapadakamalaam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desha Tarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. Okay, let's make a start. So in the last chapter, in the 7th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is called Jnana Vigyan Yoga or Jnana Vijnana Yoga, which is the knowledge of the absolute. We learned about the eternal knowledge. What are the 3 ways of gaining this eternal knowledge, right? Through hearing. And then we saw how to be able to see God everywhere from this 4th to 12th verse of the 7th chapter. And then we saw 4 types of people who never surrender, 4 types of people who surrender, right? And who are demigods, the controversial topic, right? So we had a discussion on all of this. Today we're going to deal with something that's very, very important and interesting, okay? It's about death and what death is actually, how to face it, and what it actually means. First of all, let's see the summary slide for today's session, which is the 8th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And like I said, because it deals majorly with death, the acronym for this chapter is also DEAD, D-E-A-D, dead, right? The first D stands for doubts. See, death is more like a mystery for most of us. We don't know what exactly it is and what to expect, isn't it? And what is there after death. So we have a lot of doubts in our minds, and we'll see those doubts, replicated, or the same kind of doubts even Arjuna has, and he's going to ask those questions to Lord Krishna, right? So the first part of this chapter deals with these doubts. The second part deals with the exam, okay, D-E. So the second letter is E. E stands for exam, which is death itself. We'll see why death is an exam, okay? A stands for attaining the supreme. So death is a process that we have to go through, but it is also a process through which we can attain the supreme, okay? So we'll see how that statement works. And then at last, what is devotion? As an introduction to devotion in this chapter, because the 12th chapter is entirely dedicated to bhakti yoga or devotion, but the 8th chapter has a final glimpses or introduction of devotion itself, right? All right. So we're going to continue. I'm going to ask you a question, okay? It's quite simple. What kind of questions or doubts do we have about death? When we think of death, what doubts or what kind of questions come in our mind? Can you people please put it in the chat box? Okay. What happens after death? Okay, that is Kartike's question. Okay, I think a lot of us would have thought about this. What else? Only just what happens after death? Pritha, okay, Pritha Sharma says, what happens to the soul? Pranav says, why death? Okay, we'll see why death. And Prashant says, when are we going to die? Yeah, the time of death. It's the biggest mystery, isn't it? What happens after death? How will we die? Yeah. When will it come, and will it actually happen? Will it actually happen should not be a question, should it? It's going to definitely happen, isn't it? Death is not something that any living entity can avoid. So it'll definitely happen, but when will it happen is a question for sure. So these are the kind of doubts we have about death itself. So let's see what are these doubts. From the 1st to 4th verse of the 8th chapter, Arjuna poses these questions to Lord Krishna. Let's see what Arjuna asks. And today I'd like you all to, participate in the class. So people who would like to read the translation, please raise your hands, and I'll allow you to unmute yourself so that you can read the translation. Okay, let me read this shloka. It's the second shloka of the 8th chapter. Adhiyajnah katham kotra dehesmin madhusudana prayanakale cha katham jneyosi niyatatmabhihi. Yes. Who would like to read the translation? Please unmute yourself or put your hands up. I want you all, it's nice to listen to your voices. So, okay, Pritha, Thaji, right.
Who is?
Oh, I'm sorry. By mistake, I've muted you. Yeah. Are you able to unmute yourself, Pritha?
Yeah. Who is the Lord of sacrifice, and how does he live in the body, O Madhusudana? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death?
Yeah, thank you. So Arjuna asks, who is the Lord of sacrifice and how does he live in the body? O Madhusudana. Like we said in the 5th chapter, we said that all renunciation, all sacrifice, all things that we assume that we are enjoying, it's actually not, we are not the real enjoyer, right? There is God situated as the super soul within our hearts, right? Who is a witness, and he is the ultimate enjoyer of everything that we undergo or experience, right? So who is the Lord of sacrifice? Who is this? how does he live in this body? Oh, Madhusudana. Madhusudana is a name, another name for Lord Krishna, because he had killed two demons called Madhu and Kaitaba. So Madhusudana means the killer of the demon Madhu. And how can those engaged in the devotional service know you at the time of death? Death is a very difficult situation for a lot of us, right? Most of us, if we are posed with death, we will, what kind of emotions do you think we will experience if you face death? You never know when it will come. So what kind of emotions do you think you will experience? Can I have your responses, please? Diptanshu, do you want to say something? You're smiling.
Yeah. No, I have been in a situation where I kind of knew it's forthcoming. Because you feel a very strong sense of uncertainty. And at that point of time, you suddenly feel very attached to the things you did not deem to be that important on occasions.
Ah, I see.
Like, for example, we often take our parents, like the closest people to us, for granted to an extent.
Yeah.
And then we don't give them enough importance or enough time.
Yeah.
But just before you think that, you're going into a situation where you might not come back, and that is a very strong possibility.
Yeah.
You feel like you sit beside them, you talk to them, you do the things you generally wouldn't do.
Yeah. I think people would like to see Diptanshu. Diptanshu is here with us. Yeah. Yeah.
So basically, you feel a very strong sense of attachment towards the things you never really gave that much importance or significance to. And also, I believe there is a sense of, for me at least, I can say this, I felt a sense of surrender. As in, I never felt tensed. You don't feel tensed because of things like, for example, now you might feel tense that, oh, will I get a job? Oh, will this happen? Will that happen? Will my team win? These kind of things. But at that point of time, when things don't go your way, and you know that, there is a very real possibility, and this is not going to be there. Like, you're leaving all of this behind. You're like, okay, let it be. It's fine. You become very unaffected by the things around you. So
do you? Okay, but you said that you feel suddenly attached to things that you never thought were so important in life.
But the things which we feel are very infected to, like we don't get that attached to our parents. Like, we don't give them that much importance in a regular life, but we give money a lot of importance, job a lot of importance. Your partners are a lot of importance. Maybe on occasions maybe other things which are not that important, we give a lot of importance. And when death comes, you start giving those things less importance. And you start giving your parents and the real things which genuinely matter to you. The ones you genuinely love, like you're not attracted to, but you love. That thing you give more importance to. At least that's what happened to me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Diptanshu. So Diptanshu has very inspiring story. And he has been through many surgeries, and you said almost a near-death experience where you had this, right? So he's talking out of experience. So it is something that we can take. And then Pranav says he'll feel agony and helplessness. Yes. Indumati will remember her commitments. Okay. Divya has a question. Okay, a doubt about death itself. What if the soul has some unfulfilled desires after death? What happens to the soul? Yeah, this chapter exactly answers that question, Divya. So we'll come to that. So most of us, if we're suddenly faced with death, we're suddenly, like Diptanshu said, we experience strong sense of attachment towards people and things here, which cannot come with us. Also, because of this attachment, we are so scared and fearful that, oh my God, I have my 3 BHK property, I have that and this, I have those friends and these friends, I have so much to do, what will happen? I had to give my final exams. I have to attend my daughter's marriage, have an interview tomorrow. So all these things come to mind, how can I die just now? It's just not possible. We get frightened. We are scared. We feel helpless. We are pained that we have to leave so many things. It can be agonizing, frightening, horrifying, so many emotions. So why is this? When do we usually fear about something? What is the cause of fear? Can you people put it in the chat box? Or if you want to unmute, that will also work. When do we feel fearful of something? Okay, when you are attached to it, when you are attached to something, are you fearful of it? Yeah. Yeah, when you have the sense that you might lose this thing that you're attached to, you feel fear. Also, yeah, when you have expectations, you can feel fear. Also, when you do not know something about, when you do not know about something clearly, when you do not have proper knowledge about something, that's when you feel some kind of mystery around it, and you have some kind of fear that, oh, what if this is not favorable, stuff like that. Where there's fear of losing, when you really are attached to something or someone, there's great fear of losing them. Correct. Similarly, we are so attached to things here on this planet, what we have, aggregated, including this body. We're so attached to this body, we feel scared to, leave it. This body is just like an outfit, like we discussed in the second chapter. The real inhabitant of this body is the soul, right? That possesses the consciousness. We're so attached to the body that we are very fearful of losing it. So these are the emotions that come to our mind. And Arjuna asks, how, with so many things going on in the mind at the time of death, how will we know you? How will we think about you at the time of death? We have so many other things going on in the mind. Why does Arjuna ask this question? We'll see. What are the main doubts that Arjuna is asking? How do we remember Krishna or God at the time of death? And answer to the 8th question is the main subject of the rest of the chapter. 8th question is the dealing with death itself. The whole chapter is about that. So we will see. Right. So what is this death? There are 4 things that no living entity who is embodied, or any human being, let's say, for example, there are 4 things which nobody can avoid. It cannot be avoided with money. It cannot be avoided with any other means. What are these 4 things? Can I quickly have your responses? Get thinking. Diptanshu knows it. Let's see what about others. 4 stages of life. It's similar to stages of life. There are 4 things that you cannot avoid. One of them is death. Very good. Old age. Yes. Karthike. Oh, hunger and sleep. These are instincts. Okay. Okay. I mean, hunger and sleep, you can stay awake for a while. You can avoid sleep for some time. You can avoid, you can stay hungry for a while, or you can just satiate yourself and avoid hunger itself. But there are 4 things that you cannot avoid by any means. Yeah. Health, bad health. Okay. Birth, death, suffering. Okay. Very good. Yes. Death, Pritha Sharma says death, old age, loss. Yeah. Birth, death. Oh, Prashant has the perfect answer. Birth, death, disease, and old age. Yeah. So there are 4 phenomena that all embodied beings have to undergo and cannot avoid by any means. Those are birth, death, disease, and old age, right? Nobody wants to become old. We all want to look young, energetic, and attractive, but that's not the case. You can apply makeup, you can apply dyes, you can get your teeth done up and everything. But it's all temporary. You can't forever hold on to it. So these will definitely come. We cannot avoid these.
What if somebody dies young? Then they can avoid old age.
If somebody dies young, they have to have had to avoid old age because there was death, right? Yeah. So yes, so these are the 4 things that we cannot avoid. So what is this death actually? There's this nice image that you can see. There's this old man in the hospital. Someone there, this angel and fairy and demon kind of image. So what is death actually? We all are told about heaven and hell after death. If you've done something good, you go to heaven and you enjoy that. If you're not done good things in life, you might have the possibility of going to hell and experience suffering. What exactly is this death? Death is like an exam, okay? And it's the real final exam, literally the final exam. which you have to face at the end of life, right? So that's why the second acronym is E, exam. And Lord Krishna says this in the 5th to 8th verses of the 8th chapter. So then what is life? If death is the exam, then why do we have a long life before death? Long or short, whatever. We have a life before death, isn't it? What is life then? Life is a preparation for us to face this examination of death. And the most interesting thing about Kartikeya says end of tenancy of your body. Interesting. So, okay. Ashwat Kumarji says moksha in other words. Moksha is, death is not moksha. Death is not moksha. Death is something that you undergo where you leave this body that you already possess. You're leaving this body. It's a process of leaving the body, right? What exactly it is an exam because our emotions and our mind is racing through at the time of death, and we, even normally in normal day-to-day life, it's so difficult to control the mind and what to think of at the time of death. So death and moksha are different. So we can discuss this, Ashwat Kumarji. So life is a preparation for this final exam of death. So why are we calling this death an examination? What are we going to be tested on in this exam? And how do we prepare for this during our life? So let's see. The most interesting thing about death is surprise. You never know when it's going to come, right? All other exams that we face, that we have experience of facing in this material world, all of it we get a syllabus to study, right? And we have a decided time, like we do a undergraduate or a postgraduate course, let's say undergrad course for 4 years. So we have this period of time, designated period of time, we know of that we have this much time, we need to study this, and the exam will be this time, tentatively. You know of it. But death is not like that. You never know when you have to face this exam, right? So it's like a surprise test. So every moment of our life is precious because we never know when death will arrive. We only know that we're already enrolled on the course the moment we are born. So we have to start preparing for the time of death. You never know when it's going to come, isn't it? Oh, yes. Divya saying it's also a surprise for our family and loved ones. Absolutely. It's a surprise for you. It's a surprise for everyone and not pleasant. So yes, this is a surprise test. So how to prepare, when to prepare, what is the syllabus for this exam, right? I don't know, my screen might not be entirely visible, I think. But yeah, when to prepare, what's the syllabus? Yeah.
Weird, actually, it links this topic which you just mentioned. It correlates to one of the previous topics that you mentioned, that somebody asked that can we see God? And we said that our senses might not catch it. So, for example, we are on the verge of death. We might not know it, but certain dogs start to cry because they have an idea that, death might be forthcoming, because the animals understand, but we can't hear or see it. That also goes to show that our senses are not strong enough to understand certain things. Their senses are, maybe somebody else, their senses are not strong enough to understand certain things. And somebody else's might be. So God might be beyond all of our senses. It exists, but it's just beyond the encapsulation of our perception and senses.
Yeah. Thank you. So for this surprise test, when should we prepare and what is the syllabus, right? When to prepare is, the answer is just there on your screen. It is now, right now you start preparing, because the clock has started ticking from when? The clock for this exam has started ticking the moment we were born into this world. So our time has already begun, right? Yeah, dog skin sensitive, yes, says. Okay, we will see about Garud Puran and all of that. Prashant has a comment to make. So birth is the time, like Prashant has mentioned, when our clock has started ticking. So we have already enrolled on the course. If we are still clueless, if we come to know now, then the time to prepare is starting now, right? So what is the syllabus? Okay, we'll prepare, but what's the syllabus? How to prepare? So how to prepare is, what are we expected to execute at the time of death is the remembrance of God, we will see why. Why is it recommended that we remember God at the time of death? We will see in this chapter. But it is so difficult to control the mind even otherwise. So at the time of death, when things are going haywire, you suddenly get scared of losing everything. You're experiencing different sets of emotions, agony, helplessness, fright. So in that situation, how is it that we have so much control over our mind, that we can think of God and remember God at that time of death? How to prepare to make us so strong that at the time of death we remember God? So there are 4 processes recommended, okay, in this, what to say, for 4 processes recommended. And in Krishna consciousness, we have A, B, C, D in Krishna consciousness, okay. There are expansions for A, B, C, D. So A stands for association, okay, association. It's very important that we spend a lot of time and associate with people who are devotees, who are surrendered to God, and who keep discussing about the pastimes of God, keep discussing, thinking about God. So when you spend a lot of time with such people, naturally you hear a lot more about God. You personally think a lot more about God. So your mind now has the experiences of thinking about God, other than all other things that it runs to. There is also a little small space that you have in your mind for God. Right? So association is the A. Can you tell me what B stands for? It's not very difficult. You can guess. What could B stand for? B, okay. Diptanshu says birth. Okay. Birth is not a preparation itself. Yeah. Divya says Bhagavad Gita. Prashant says reading Bhagavad Gita. Yes. So B stands for books, basically. So books where their Lord Krishna and his pastimes and descriptions have been given, God's, their pastimes. If you read such books, if you read the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, where you are directly engaging or listening to a conversation between God and Arjuna, then you get connected to God through this reading process, right? So B stands for books. A for association, B for books. C is also an interesting thing. C stands for chanting. Okay, the first thing that has been mentioned, chanting. When we repeatedly take the names of God, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, when you repeatedly chant this mantra, you remember God because you're taking his name, right? Your mind forms an image, you're taking his name, and your mind now makes a place. Chanting is considered to be like the emergency helpline, 911. So if you want to connect with God in an instant, what's the emergency helpline? Just chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. With intense helplessness, and with in your mind, if you pray that I need help, I need your support, I need your presence, and you chant this, you are directly connecting and reaching out to God. This is the SOS helpline. So this is also a way to prepare. At the time of see, if you don't know how to dial 911, when there's an emergency, how will you dial this, right? To call for help. So you have to practice, isn't it? Similarly, if you have to think of God and chant God's name at the time of death, it's important that you practice chanting while you have normal life to live, right? So A for association, B for books, C for chanting, and D stands for 2 things, okay? D stands for diet, okay? Where we recommend that whatever we eat, whatever we consume as food, we offer it to God first, okay? We offer it to God first and then accept it. By practicing this for a period of time, we realize that we will avoid a lot of unhealthy food, a lot of things, a lot of food that has associated karma with it. We avoid it by practicing this, We cannot offer something that is, prepared long time ago. We cannot offer things that are unfit to be served to God. So by practicing this, if we practice offering food to God and then accepting that food, accepting this prasadam makes a huge difference. in our thinking and our life. So D stands for diet, where we accept only prasadam, prasadam meaning food that has been offered to God. And D also stands for deity worship. It's difficult to say, if somebody says God has no form, it becomes very difficult for us to imagine something and then concentrate on our imagination. But when we have a visible idol in front of us, when we have a deity, a photo, then looking at that photo, it becomes very easy for us to focus on that form, right? When we worship this deity, it's easy for us to think of this worship, our beloved deity at the time of death. How to prepare? ABCD. Association, books, chanting, diet, or deity worship. That has been described as serving on the slide, right? So this is how we can prepare the syllabus. What's the syllabus? We will see. We already saw, right? The syllabus is Lord Krishna himself, or God himself. The syllabus is studying everything about God so that we remember him at the time of death and go back to the abode where he lives after death. That is moksha. Going back to the original abode is moksha. We'll see what it is. When to prepare? Right now. We already discussed this. So what is the result of this? Okay, we all have to invariably give this examination called death. So we prepare for it. We chant, we associate with devotees. We, consume only prasadam, and we do deity worship. Association books, we read the Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavatam, and scriptures. Read the Bhagavad Gita. So we do all of this. So what is the result of this? What will we get from this? If we study about Krishna during our life, we follow this 4 ABCD formula, at the time of death, we get liberated from this cage of constant and repeated birth and death cycles in different bodies. And we are able to go back to Godhead, back to the place where God lives. Okay. And we'll see there's a description of Vaikuntha, the planets, the planetary system where God is believed to live. And why are we aspiring to go there? Because Vaikuntha is a place where there is no kunta, means suffering. And Vai means no. So no suffering. The abode of no suffering is Vaikuntha. And that is where God lives. So if we do this practice religiously, dedicatedly and sincerely, if we follow the ABCD formula, we have been assured that at the time of death, we will be able to surpass this cycle of birth and death and go back to the original abode that we came from. Okay. Okay, now the question is, very interested students will say, okay, fine, I'm giving the exam. Tell me how to pass the exam. Tell me how to pass the exam. Can somebody give us a cheat sheet just before the day so that we pass the exam? Now with death, you don't know when it's going to happen, the exam itself. And so you don't have an option for this arranging people for cheat sheets and stuff like that. So how to actually pass this final exam? There is only 2 methods. One is anusmara. Mam anusmara yudhyacha. Yeah? In the 7th verse, Lord Krishna says, always remember me. Always remember Krishna. So if you always remember him, it becomes a default setting in your mind. At the time of death, you anyway remember Krishna otherwise. So at the time of death, automatically your mind is, even though all other things are going on, your mind is by default going Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. You have chanted Hare Krishna, that goes on in your mind. So you always remember Krishna. That's number 1. Number 2 is abhyasa, or practice. So to always remember Krishna, you have to practice. Your mind is otherwise like a small child that runs around for every other place. It's very difficult to control it. But if you give the right guidance and if you practice over time, if you chant this Maha Mantra repeatedly, make it a daily practice to chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Make it a daily practice to read about God. We spend so much time with so many friends, go out for hours and hours together, right? Or over a coffee, we spend hours, we go out. But can we spare 5 minutes every day to chant the names of Lord Krishna, to chant the names of God? Can we not? In 24 hours, can we not give 5 minutes? That is all. We need to practice. And as we practice and progress further, it becomes easier for us to focus our mind and remember Krishna, remember God, right? This is the way to pass the final exam. If we successfully practice, chant every day, accept prasadam, listen about God, read books. If you can't do anything else, just chant, just remember the names. That name has the power to, purify everything else. It has been described in the scriptures. So if you can't do anything else, just chant. Find time to have this is a one-on-one connection and conversation with God. Not everybody is fortunate to get this kind of opportunity. When you sit in a secluded place, preferably. In fact, it's more recommended to chant in a group. A group of people together when they chant, the potency increases. So if not in a group, sit alone and spend this time with God, 5 minutes a day. Chant this Mahamantra 108 times at least. And then you show your love towards God. You show that, okay, every day at least you're setting aside 5 minutes to spend time with God. That shows your love towards Him, right? And this will enable you to remember Him. And this remembrance becomes a default setting in our mind, right? And this enables us to pass the exam, final exam, which is death, by remembering God. Right, so there are very different ways described in the Bhagavad Gita to attain the Supreme or to go back to the Supreme abode. So we discussed about Ashtanga Yoga in the 6th chapter. Ashtanga Yoga is again described in the 8th chapter from the 9th to 13th verse. And the Bhakti Yoga is also described from 14th to 16th verses, right? So like we already mentioned, the ultimate step in all the yoga systems, be it Jnana Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga, Sankhya Yoga, Ashtanga Yoga, everything, it is all ultimately culminating to Bhakti Yoga. And only by means of Bhakti can we then get rid of this birth and death cycle and reach the spiritual world, spiritual abode or Vaikuntha. Now, why should we aspire to go to the spiritual world? Oh, I have a very luxurious life here on earth. I have a big house, I have a beautiful wife, or I have a nice, handsome husband, I have children, I have everything. Everything that I wish for. I have amazing food to eat, this nice music, I can go chill in the mall. So why do I have to go to Vaikuntha? I'm enjoying here. There could be people that tell this. Let's see. Why is it that we have to go to Vaikuntha?
This is temporary and that is permanent.
Diptanshu says this is temporary and that is permanent. Excellent. So that's one of the differences. We'll see that. Now, there are different ways to attain the Supreme. Why should we go to the Supreme abode? Exactly, we need to answer this question. How to attain the Supreme? Why should we attain the Supreme? And what does it mean to attain the Supreme? Right? We're going to see how to attain the Supreme. So we're going to the meeting is going to end in a minute. So I'm going to end the meeting here, stop sharing and end the meeting here. Okay. And you all can join back so that we continue our conversation on how, why, what to attain the Supreme. Right. See you there. Hare Krishna.